questions. We have tons of them. What if some of those questions can be answered with a simple email? Now is that time, and welcome to Chat with Charlie. Host Stephanie Lynn is a certified spiritual life coach and psychic medium. She will work together with Spirit to answer both your submitted and live questions. Not only will Stephanie be providing you with insight, but also interviews with amazing guests. Now, your host of Chat with Charlie, Stephanie Lynn.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chat with Charlie. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn, and you are listening on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. I'm really excited about today's guest, and I think you will be too. Dr. Gala is somebody that has spent her life looking at holistic options. She is a licensed acupuncturist. She's an author. And she really offers a practical outlook, I guess you could say. Good morning, Keith. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. A practical outlook on giving advice, giving different programs and resources to help you reverse health issues that result from chronic stress. And so many of us, right, we have chronic stress. So it's something that I thought was very pivotal to bring to you so that we could sit back, we can look at these options and even help ourselves evaluate at chronic stress levels, evaluate how we can operate as a better whole self and heal some of those things that allow the chronic stress to come into our lives. However, this morning, we are going to do things a little bit different because talking about chronic stress, I know our guest is having a little bit of a difficult time getting in and getting set up. So while we wait for her to come in, I actually wanted to start with some card pool this morning instead of doing that at the end of the show. So if you're just tuning in and you're like, what? You're starting with cards? Take a minute and kind of get yourself set. And I'm going to pull 4 cards today and see what kind of advice Spirit has to offer us. Because we all need guidance, right? We all kind of have a part of us where maybe we kind of know, we kind of have our own tuition, but yet it's nice to have a little bit extra support. So set your intentions, set what things that you would like to know about, and we're going to go from there. All right. So 4 cards. And I'm back to using my Sacred Forest Oracle deck by Denise Lynn. For those of you that don't know what that looks like, it looks like that. Good morning, Robert. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's nice to have you all here. All right. And so, all right, card number 1. I like this card, right? Because the whole point is we need information. And this card, this is wisdom. What I like about this card right now is if we are looking for wisdom, if we are saying, Spirit, come in, I really need guidance on this. To me, bringing out this card says you already have that wisdom. You have the self-wisdom. You have the self-understanding of the situation and the scenario. So just use your wisdom. Trust your own insight and trust your feelings around the scenario. Card number 2 is flow. And I feel like more and more as the world, as society, to me feels like we're moving out of flow. I feel like I myself am moving back into a better understanding of myself and a better flow with myself. And I feel like that's what this card resonates. This card really resonates having a flow within ourselves. And we're starting to recognize that. We're starting to come back and starting to reconnect ourselves to that point, to saying, I'm starting to feel like, not that you have a purpose, but that things are starting to connect. You're starting to move into alignment with your journey instead of fighting it, and that things are going to start coming easier. if you chose card number 3, and especially if you chose this within conjunction of the last card, this is inverted and this is the freedom card. So I feel like something is holding you back. So maybe you're starting to feel like you're moving into this flow, or maybe just in general you're feeling like you're held back. Where are you lacking freedom? So look at the choices that you're making that are making you feel like you don't have the freedom within your environment, that are making you feel like you don't have the freedom in those choices. Because we always have choices. They may not always be win-win choices. They may be difficult choices. Good morning, Jackie. But when we look at those choices that we have, we still have freedoms to choose. And so it's kind of changing that vernacular. It's looking at it and saying, you know what? I might not like these options, but I do have options. And by looking at those options, we're still saying we have the freedom to make the choice of what we feel is best for us within these scenarios. And the last card is acceptance. You know, and I think sometimes we look at acceptance and it's like, oh, we're just going to accept that maybe we're in a bad spot, or maybe we're just going to accept that this is the way it is. But this is more about acceptance and releasement, right? Not staying in a situation or staying somewhere that may not be healthy for us or may not resonate with us. It's acceptance of, I am in this spot, and grieving, moving through, and letting go. Within acceptance, that gives us back that freedom, that gives us back that choice within our journey to let go and to move on. We may accept maybe we can't change somebody. And so we take that acceptance, we grieve that loss of whatever we had pre-designated in our minds of our perception, and we move through that and we move past it. So if you're just tuning in, we started a little bit backwards. First card was wisdom. Good morning, Shelby. I'm glad you tuned in. Second one was flow. Third one was inverted freedom. And the fourth one is acceptance. And so if you missed the explanation of how I was interpreting those cards this morning with spirit, please, oh, Stephanie, I'm really glad that hit home for you. Please hop back on, catch the beginning of the show so that you can get those messages with those cards. So in the air of we're doing things a lot differently today, what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break. I am going to check on our guest, see if she is still having difficulties coming in. When we get back from the break, if she's still having difficulties, I'm going to hop to another guest and we're going to completely change this up. And we're going to talk a little bit about conspiracies. So hold on to your pants. Spirit's taking us for a ride today. We're shaking things up, and we'll see you back in just a moment.
The Body Code is a revolutionary method of energetic healing developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, which allows us to quickly and easily identify specific imbalances that seem to underline chronic ill health, acute and chronic pain, and discomfort, dysfunction, and stress. Ellie energetically connects with the subconscious of the client. Psychic medium Ellie Weisensell is a medical intuitive and energy healer, and a certified body code practitioner. She identifies and clears energetic imbalances within the body and energy field. Contact Ellie at the website below, and Ellie can work remotely from a distance, by phone, online, video chat. There's no need to travel to an office. Remember, the Body Code is safe for humans and animals. Contact Ellie today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. You are watching Chat with Charlie on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn. And if you guys were on for the last 10 minutes of the show, you realize that our guest is having some issues. And so we're going to shake things up. If you were tuning in, how to deal with stress, I'm going to show you how to deal with stress because Spirit's shaking everything up. So please help me welcome station owner Todd Bates as we discuss conspiracies.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. It's nice to see your face again.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
UFOs.
Don't shoot them down. That'll make them mad at us. So we kind of talked about this a little bit backstage. Conspiracies, different conspiracy theories that we're seeing coming up within the system, and especially evolving around the balloons, but there's so many of them. It's one of my favorite topics. And so why not talk about conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts. I think it's a distraction.
Right. I'm
Big
kind of there too.
Because we have unidentified flying objects that may have aliens within. It could be some kind of special craft made by another country or something or so forth.
Right.
They're not telling us that. But I think if they were genuine alien beings, they would handle things much differently than what they are now.
Absolutely.
Because
Right.
it's as if no one cares. They're making fun of it.
Right.
Memes
Absolutely.
are everywhere. They're making fun of it. And this is something serious. Very possible.
Right. Yeah. And it's what I find interesting. And I do like that you bring up this distraction technique, because we've seen this in a lot of things that involve government.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter where any of us fall in the spectrum of left, right, in between. There are definitely clear things where there's bigger issues, and then all of a sudden something else comes in to distract, or there's lack of information. And I think as a people, many have just gotten used to saying, oh, okay, and we don't really look behind that veil. We don't really look at that magic act of how did they actually make the elephant disappear.
Bingo. It's all an illusion. There's so
Absolutely.
many things they're covering up. You had that huge train accident.
Yes, somebody had just posted, Courtney did, talking about the chemical
The
spills.
chemical spill.
Yes.
This is something, okay, oh my goodness, we have a serious problem here. What can we do to distract society?
Right.
So let's throw up a weather balloon in the air and shoot it down.
Right.
Let's cause some action. Let's have some F-22s flying around to make people feel safe or to instill fear.
Right. Right.
Either way, people are afraid.
Oh, absolutely. And what I find, or what I get most frustrated with, is misinformation. So we don't have resources, right, to check what the government's telling us or what they're not telling us. But they really just give us enough information to stress us out, or to make people freak out. And where if you communicated clearly, which that is not their intent. Their intent is not to communicate clearly. But if they communicated clearly, even if they said, listen, yes, we believe all 4 of these balloons came from China. We're looking at what's going on with these. We don't believe that, because one thought I had is we're shooting down these things that we're not sure of what they are, right?
Right.
How do we know it's not another chemical release?
Exactly.
How do we know it's not another illness being sent into the atmosphere? And so if they would communicate clearly, hey, guys, we don't see any COVID mutated diseases in these balloons, or we don't see any of these things in there, and communicate clearly, I think it would put people more in trust also with the media and the things that they're hearing.
Yeah. They want to keep you quiet.
Right.
Keep you sitting in front of the television watching the media and watching those ads. It comes down to the almighty dollar too.
Right. Oh yeah.
What I find funny about the whole thing is other countries, for example, Russia, they're all for alien civilizations coming and going, and
Right.
the government actually researches it. But I think our country is keeping other countries quiet
Right.
about what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, they have some leverage, maybe we have some leverage, something like that. I just think it's funny how something this major can happen
Right.
and no one cares.
And
No one's, there's no panic, which is good, Don't get me wrong.
right. You don't want mass chaos. We don't want
Right.
mass chaos.
But they're not explained very well. We have this unidentified flying object. The reason why one of these objects were shot down was because they said they were interfering with the crafts, with the planes. They were using, I think, F-22s or something. They were
Right.
interfering with their sensors. Well, maybe they were trying to communicate, and that was their only way.
And what I find interesting in all of this is I really think our leverage is about to wear out. I really think that, and people, if we disappear, like if you guys do not hear from us tomorrow, check on us. Just be like, hey, were you guys abducted? Did the CIA swoop in and steal you away? Because there are things at a much bigger level going on here. But social media, so many things have brainwashed us. So many things have made us diversion tactics. Look this way because we don't want you to look this way.
Yes. That happens with a lot of things. And I'm not going to say, like these school shootings and so forth were conspiracy theories or
Right.
conspiracies. People were injured, people were hurt. But there are cover-ups. It keeps this country safe. I get it, to classify some
Right.
things. But UFOs have been declassified.
Right.
And they have enough information. There's still a lot of retracted things out there that you can't read.
Mhm.
But on other countries' documents, they're not retracted, which,
Correct.
Canada, for example, here, this is what we have.
Right.
Please help
Correct.
us.
Yes.
But
And no, go ahead.
But we're flying over, we shot one down over Canada,
Right.
over Alaska, Montana. These are weird locations for
They are
objects to, Montana's beautiful, but my goodness, what's so interesting about Montana?
I don't know if any of you are Yellowstone fans, but I was like, maybe they're looking for the train station. They're trying to find the train station. I don't know. That's all I could think of. But what and I can respect, and I like, Courtney says we can agree to disagree, but do it united. And
Bingo.
I am totally, nothing I say here on this platform will I say is the end all be all. I can even respect the government coming out and saying, listen, we shot this down. Right now, we don't want to discuss it until we can give you correct information. Right now, it's classified. I can respect that, but don't feed me a line of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
That's what's happening. They're taking us down another rabbit hole.
Right.
I think there's something bigger afoot than what we can expect. There's some kind of. But if this was true, if we were being, I'm not, invaded is the wrong word, visited,
right,
by other planets,
right,
we sure as hell wouldn't shoot them down. We would try and communicate.
Right.
You would think, unless they already know something we don't.
Well, and I don't know about you, but at this point, I really trust the aliens more than 99% of our population.
Oh, please take me. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, here's my kids. Make sure they're safe. We'll see you guys later. Yeah. Like, that sounds horrible, but.
Gotta go.
Yeah. It's like, all right, see ya. I'm out. So I like it. Robert says, see, it was confirmed. He said the one over Montana, exactly what you said, looking
Mhm.
for Kevin Costner. So
Yeah. And, and
eh,
and that's the strangeness of it is,
right.
you
But
know,
there are a lot of government sites that are not in highly populated areas
very true.
that a lot of the general public doesn't look at those things. And I've always been a person where, and this sounds ridiculous, but probably since the age of like 13, I've always had a will. I've always had a go bag. Like I'm like feeling like, I don't know, a Girl Scout on crack because I have had this hyper vigilance of these things. But knowing, where some of these underground government military bases are and these bigger things are in some of these remote areas, which to me is concerning.
You look at Area 51, that's one.
Right.
That's a decoy. I've thought for years that Area 51's a decoy.
A distraction
It's
technique
a
again.
distraction
Right.
for Area 52, which actually has all the test aircraft. Maybe these are high-powered aircraft from other countries, perhaps. I know that we're not really a Cold War. It's chilly,
Right. Right.
but we're kind of in the midst of one of those with a couple countries right now. The whole Ukraine thing, all of this, I think, plays a part,
Absolutely.
and these are distractions. Something is going to happen probably within the next few months. Something drastic is going to happen, something major. I mean, I'm not talking about New World Order or anything like that,
Right.
but
Right. But I think we all feel this building, and the lack of information doesn't help soothe anybody's worries with
mm,
what's going on.
no, no. And excuse me, what I started doing, I've done this for a long time. I've quit watching television.
Yes, me too. I try not to watch much of it.
Um, there's so much fear
Right.
instilled. So to see these things, I mean, that flashes across. I get like little news briefs or whatever just to keep up with current events. And
Right.
and some of these, the way they handle it, just they crack me up
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be handled this way. If that was an alien craft in there, for example, like Roswell,
Right.
you know,
Right.
they supposedly took the bodies, dissected everything, did
Mhm.
experiments. All of a sudden, we have Velcro, we have plastic, we have, so
Right. Right.
it's strange how these things come about. So I think the government knows more, obviously, than what they're telling us, and they're declassifying things little by little,
Right.
but they're not making any sense. They're not adding
No.
up.
And it's what fascinates me is if you look at ancient society, right? And I'm thinking like, was it Rome that actually had the recipe for making concrete? They made these things and then it was lost, and we get it back and it's like this new technology and we're mesmerized, and it's so mysterious to us how these ancient civilizations could have created the pyramids, could have created the colosseums. Maybe they weren't lacking in as much advancement as what we thought. Maybe something happened in the middle.
I think it goes back. Alien civilizations. This is my personal opinion. They have been here.
Right.
They have been here back ancient Sumerian times. The pyramids.
Right.
I think they assisted with those. Look at the size of those pyramids
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the technology back then with ropes and animals. It would take a little bit more than that to do this.
Absolutely.
And they had I believe they were called Nephilims
Hmm.
back then, huge alien creatures
Right.
who could have probably lifted these things and put them on there. Who knows? But apparently
Right.
these pyramids used to have gold caps
Yes,
on
I've
on
heard
top
that.
of them. And I think they're beacons. It's a beacon, it's a map, it's something for someone to come revisit sometime,
Hmm.
because all of the hieroglyphics,
Right.
they explain all of that.
Well, and if you look back, even, and you were there when we did that dowsing class, looking even back at the history of dowsing goes way back to ancient times.
Mhm.
So where did these things evolve from? And I laugh because Jackie popped in and she says, "You're about to get canceled because you know the truth." She says she'll save us. I love it. I love it. Well, and it's not, it's just about, I cannot be the only one who is sitting in fifth grade social studies looking at them talking about how the pyramids were built, going, that doesn't make sense.
Mm,
That, okay. I've got rope at home. I don't think I could build a pyramid.
mm.
So it's just, and I like this. So Jackie, or Erica, I'm sorry, just popped in. She said this makes her think of the theory that people who see UFOs are descended from ancient alien civilizations. And to that a testament, I was watching something on aliens, and I have had experiences of seeing things, one thing in particular that didn't quite make sense, and I remember I was with my friend and we were on our way to the bar. We hadn't been to the bar yet. And we're driving through town, and I grew up on the East Coast. It's big buildings and stuff, and we're driving through, and I remember looking up and there were these lights that didn't quite make sense. And yeah, Keith, a lot didn't make sense to me in fifth grade either, but that made even less sense.
Right.
And, but it looked like, so it had like the different lights on it, but it looked like one of those big, what do they call those big balloons? I can't think of it. You know what I'm
Big hot
talking
air
about.
balloons,
Yeah, not that air balloon.
weather balloons.
No, the one that lit on fire and burnt up. People
Oh,
ride in them.
the blimps,
Yes, yeah. So it reminded me of that. It was gray, but it was more oblong and very big. A blimp. Yes, thank you, Shelby. And we were driving, but this thing was really low, which to me is what caught my eye, because I'm like, how can this be so low between these buildings? And it was moving at super slow speeds. Like it
Mhm.
it was weird. It should have been, the rate I was driving, it should not have been within our view for that long. And it's something that I've never, and then all of a sudden like that, it was gone.
Mhm.
And and I asked my friend about it, and she has the worst memory in the whole world. She's one of my best friends, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my God, how can you not remember this?" But then I find out multiple people within my family have had experiences with seeing UFOs. And that's another theory, is that these experiences follow generations. It's like you're a science experiment.
Yeah. You've got so many experiences, documented experiences. You've got, for example, Travis Walton, an
Yes.
amazing experience. If you guys haven't watched the movie Fire in the Sky,
Oh, it's
check it
great.
out. It will
Yeah.
scare the tar out of you, but it will
Right.
also really make you think. Benny and Barney Hill,
Yeah.
um, they had the sighting that it came right down in front of their vehicle and then takes off.
Yes.
They're all documented and they're so related. These people are stretched all across the world, but yet their stories match.
Right.
Why aren't we seeing these stories now? Why isn't the news covering the skies right now?
Yeah.
If this is such a hot topic, if we're being visited by other beings, the media is they're still following Biden tripping up the stairs,
Well, and
you know?
how small-minded are we to think in this huge galaxy we're the only ones with any kind of intelligence?
Yeah.
And so my friend that I was telling you doesn't remember anything. She chimed in waving that she's claiming that's her. But it's, how can we sit here, and there's all these things where because we look at things as light years, right? Here we
Mhm.
see everything as a linear time,
Right.
but we're starting to pick up on these signals from what they're saying are hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, but maybe to them they're not. Maybe that's
Right.
just what it takes to reach us.
Yeah. Exactly. Time is man-made.
Yeah.
Time is man-made. Linear time, you get into quantum physics and so forth on how propulsion works out there, and they can get here and so forth. They have the technology to do that. It
Right.
may have always been out there, and we're
Correct.
just a new planet,
Right.
and we
And
haven't
we're
developed
really not as smart as we think.
right.
Right.
Exactly. So it's almost as if sometimes I feel like I'm in a fishbowl.
Yeah. Right.
And
Like you're somebody's science experiment.
yes,
Yes.
I'm in a fishbowl.
They're
All these
failing.
people
If
are
I'm their science experiment, I'm just saying they have a failing grade because there's something not right here. So sorry for the F.
sorry for the flaws.
Right.
Yeah,
You
but
should have picked guppies over little humans. That's all I can say.
something more interesting, yes. I
Mhm,
mean, it's
mhm.
almost as if, um, they're because I know they're out there, and I
Right.
know there's different species, just like there's different species of animals,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
there's different species out there, but I don't think what's visiting us, what they're shooting down, I don't think they're alien crafts. I don't know. It could have been something they threw up there.
Right.
It
I
could have
agree. I
been
think it's a diversion technique.
yeah, because we
And
would have been I mean, we're talking martial law would have been put into place because of the
right.
panic, one of these things would have landed. It's just
And then you'd have us crazy people under martial law. No, I want to learn their
I
language.
wanna learn their
I want
language.
to learn their language. And so, it's funny because I just so I was and I don't remember what movie this was, but it was based on a true story. And I don't remember the details. So people please don't fault me. But it had to do with a woman who said her children were abducted by aliens. And that totally freaks me out.
The forgotten.
Yes, and having experiences of my own, like that's something that always has freaked me out. And it is very easy in our society to say, well, she killed them. She's crazy. And I get it. Some people are crazy. Is
Mhm.
everyone that tells you they had an experience truly having an experience? No. But that movie freaked me out because
Yeah,
I felt validity in that movie.
yeah. That movie was and I like to call those test films.
Right.
The government works with Hollywood, I feel.
Right.
They work with Hollywood for these test films just to see how society would react to something, and one of the worst ones, and it got me, it was called The Fourth Kind.
Oh, I'm gonna write that one.
Definitely write
Listen to
that
me.
down.
Oh, it freaks you out? Let me write this down. I wanna
It is
watch
called The
it.
Fourth Kind, and it's got that, the actress, she's a great actress, I can't she's a Russian actress, but she's in there and it comes out, everything here is based on a true story, it says, actual recordings,
Yeah. Well,
people
Shelby says that was a
levitating.
good movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm just, "Whoa," blown
Right.
away by this, and if that in those films, the government works with Hollywood with these things, I think, just to
Right.
see, "All right, let's get them in the theaters. Let's
Yeah.
see what they're saying
The
afterwards,
responses.
and then we'll know how much we can tell them about what we really know."
Uh,
Because
Shelby
apparently
says
this
it
never happened.
weirded her mom out too. Well, and
Yeah.
it goes to and I had it starred in here and we didn't quite get to it, but Jackie had mentioned, and this is a great segue for that. She was talking about last year's American Horror Story, which I didn't see, so I'll have to go back and
I
check
haven't
that one
seen it.
out. But she says it's all based on a president forming a contract in Area 51. And she's like, maybe it's more true.
Mhm.
And how they sell these things as fiction. And I was actually just talking with Ellie Weisensell, who we all know, she's been a guest here, a great friend of the station. And we were talking about horror movies because I really, and a lot of people in my field don't enjoy horror movies, but I do. I enjoy the paranormal movies. And I said there was one movie that had really freaked me out. But the reason it bothered me is it was so closely related to an incident that I had experienced that that's when I started looking at these as, are these really made up, or are these a socially acceptable way for people to bring in their experiences?
Yeah. There was an experience, and I'll share this. Sherry and I had this object that we saw in the sky. We were letting the dogs out,
Yeah.
and she came and got me. It was early. It was like 5 a.m. She came and woke me up and had me come outside and look at this shining. It was far enough in the sky to where it wasn't a plane. It wasn't, it wasn't moving, but it was a shining object just sitting there pulsating and shining. And I thought maybe it was a space station or something. It
Right.
could have been,
Right.
but it also could have been one of these things that they're shooting down as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, looking in the skies at night, you can see things if you take the time.
Well, and people, and that's a great point, because so many people, they live in the city. There's all this artificial
pollution.
light. And so the sky has to be one of the biggest overlooked parts
Mhm.
within our environment.
It's
Now
just like the ocean.
right. And I live in the middle of nowhere. I need a flashlight to find my dumpster because it's so dark. And so I always feel like we're so hyper vigilant here
Mhm.
because we can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm here. I'm lucky. I'm out in a rural area as well. There's not as much light pollution. I can see a few things. But when I go watch, and I do, I used to go to the local park here
Yeah.
at night. Oh, it's pitch black. You could see
Right.
all kinds of
Right.
things. And I used to try and communicate with them
Yeah.
with a laser.
Okay.
It was just, you would blink it, just those little, like the
Right.
things that you use to play
For
with
your
cats.
cats. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Use one of those to see if there was anything that would come back. You'd see stars twinkle and so forth, but
Right.
I never had anything positive from it. But
Right.
then you have people saying not to do that. So it's
Right. And Courtney says the skies speak to her. I agree. And when you were talking about that, I'm like, man, you're braver than I am, because I have this weird innate fear of opening that door to where they're like, oh, okay, now we're gonna,
abduct you.
right, and or something ridiculous happen. But I want to take a minute, because Erica and Keith have both kind of shared their UFO stories.
Oh, sure.
So Keith says, I remember one morning when I was going to work, I saw so much light from the sky. I thought it was the northern lights, and how I felt was so close. But there was an energy pull that came with the light.
Ooh,
So that's interesting.
that's
That
very interesting.
probably would have scared the shit out of me. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I would have filled them.
Yeah. Lights are one thing, but and knowing how I interact with energy when spirit's around, I think that would have overwhelmed me.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, is why they're trying to cover this up is because we're such a young society, and I think the government knows more than what they do, and they're not telling us because we're like children.
Right.
If this was truly disclosed, and more is coming out,
Yes.
but once this is, they may be doing it in stages, and this may be a stage
Right.
to disclose it, but it's really going to freak people out.
It is, because you look at everything that we see. Spirits are bad, ghosts are bad, aliens are just coming to kill us. It's nowhere have we ever been taught to be kind even to one another, to
Peace.
be open-minded. Look at what we've done to even just within our own society, different ethnic groups. So we're a society that really hasn't learned how to play nice with each other yet.
Yeah.
We can't get along in the sandbox
No,
at
and
all.
we'll make another sign. Alien lives matter. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
we're all living creatures, and
Yes.
I'm not being rude when I say this, but anyone that thinks otherwise, that there is no intelligent life out there in this huge universe, has got to be conceited.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so many different planets, galaxies.
Absolutely.
Uh, we can't be it. We can't just be the little marble in the middle.
No.
I think we are the newest planet. I think there's a lot of different things that they're trying with us, experimenting with us, and so forth. And then the big release will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And Erica had jumped in, which I find this interesting too, because it kind of goes back to our point of things happening within family groups. And she's related to me. She's my youngest sister, but she talks about one day on way to hunting, they saw a UFO. And she said, but what the weirdest part was that everybody on the trip that was not related to her by blood never saw it. And she says she saw it for over 10 minutes.
Wow.
Right? Like that's kind of jacked up. It gives me goosebumps.
Huge goosebumps. That means, we're connected.
Right.
They're connected to certain DNA, to certain individuals. Maybe the ones that see it are the starseed children, the hybrids.
Well, and that's, and people have talked to me about that. And this is where I struggle, right? Because we're on here, we're talking about conspiracy. We're on here, I say I talk to dead people, but I struggle because people have talked to me about, well, you're a starseed, you're this. And, and I would do the research and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm half alien. And so I struggle, but yet I'm like, well, I talk to dead people. I believe that there is validity in different dimensions because I don't believe that time runs linear. So could it be true? Does it make us unintelligent or more intelligent to believe these other theories and to be open-minded to them?
Yeah. And there's a case. I interviewed her years ago. Haven't heard from her in a long time. Her name is Kim Carlsberg.
I think we're going to be hearing from a lot of people after this. I'm just saying. At least we'll be in good company wherever they decide to put us, but just saying.
She was abducted. Okay.
Okay.
Remembers every bit of it. Every bit of it. Doesn't have to be regressed or anything. Remembers every bit of it. And the strange thing is, she came back and was with child.
Okay.
Okay. Now this child it looked human, but it looked like a perfect human.
Wow.
In every way. The skin tone, the eye color,
right.
The hair everything was perfect. And she would so definitely look her up, folks. Her name is Kim Carlsberg, with a C. And it's she's out in Arizona now. I think she does UFO tours.
Okay.
But great interview. She really is. You should get her on here. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
But she like I said, she remembered everything from what they did to her, the experiments. She feels they implanted her, they impregnated her, sent her back, and she's been abducted several times and remembers these things.
Yeah, it's, at some point, like you said, when you're looking at, and I just had this conversation with somebody else when I had finally admitted to them that I'm a little different in more ways than one. And I told them, I'm a certified psychic medium. I understand how crazy that sounds. And they said, but I know you and you are intelligent. You're very rational. So if you find value in it, I have to honor that value. And even if we may not agree, I think we need to start looking at the value and the validity when they're coming from these resources that have integrity. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
absolutely. Always check your sources. And there you're going to see so many, especially with the internet. You're going to
Yeah,
see so much. There's going to be so much photoshopped, especially now. Be
right.
careful.
And who says an alien looks like what we envision? I really do think, like many people think, that if there are life forms operating here from other planets within or with outside of our galaxy, they have integrated.
Mhm.
You're not gonna, look at them and be like, oh, they're gonna fit in.
Yeah, they're going to fit in. And that's what a lot of people feel, that they are already here,
Yeah.
walking amongst us, living just as we do, but they're different.
Yes.
You have these there's certain magicians, illusionists. It's
Right.
like, how there's no way they can do that trick naturally. There's no way that can naturally just catch on fire in their hand like that.
Right.
Maybe they're of some other source.
Absolutely. And Erica says, like Men in Black, they all work at the post office.
Ah, yes.
Yes. But you know what's funny about that is, and it's too bad we couldn't have corralled Barnaby in on this conversation, because he has some very interesting theories, even when you're looking at the Hat Man,
Mhm.
whom I have had experiences with. So you put in having this experience with the Hat Man, the elusive Hat Man, and then having these other experiences and abilities. Could he be like Barnaby's theory kind of suggest, an observer keeping track of these things? And it gives me goosebumps because it kind of freaks me out, and all, if I'm being honest. So it's really interesting how some of these things, Hat Man, you look at him as being more paranormal, but really ties into the UFO scenario.
I think the Hat Man is more alien
Yeah.
than human. Um, and I totally agree with Barnaby's theory. He's an
Right.
observer,
Yes.
almost like the Mothman's there at certain situations. Well, the Hat
Right.
Man is there certain situations, probably at all these different situations too. People just haven't reported seeing him. But
Absolutely.
that's the beauty of it, is we don't know.
Right.
And until we find out, we all have to stick together and just make this work the best we can,
Right. Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
not believe everything you see.
Yes. Well, and I appreciate, you taking time, I think, and I see Dr. Gala had popped in. I think there was probably a little bit of confusion with some of the time frame, probably different time zones. But I would like to let you go. We'll pop on to a quick commercial. Maybe we could bring Dr. Gala in for the last 10 minutes, and definitely have her back another time, because she has so much value to add to our show.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Bye,
soon.
everybody.
Looking for a holistic solution? Look no further than LimestreetWellness.com. Lime Street Wellness is a full-service Reiki therapy center offering in-person and distant Reiki sessions. Additionally, Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping clients co-create healthier outcomes with hypnosis, QHHT, and intuitive advice. Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping all that are seeking to co-create better health, peace of mind, and greater freedom. Reiki Master Kevin Mackey uses energy medicine, hypnosis, mindfulness, and intuitive guidance to assist in uncovering, understanding, and removing any blocks or energy cords or mental mindsets that may be intruding and causing needless suffering. Visit Lime Street Wellness today at LimestreetWellness.com. That's LimestreetWellness.com. Good
Good morning, everybody. You are tuning in to Chat with Charlie. It is 9:49, and I really appreciate you guys all tuning in. Spirit was kind of interesting today, the way they had things planned out, but I'm really glad that we got to talk to Todd about some of the conspiracies going on within society right now. It was a very interesting conversation. And there was some confusion. It's hard sometimes when we're booking guests and we're all in different time zones. But I do want to introduce you and at least take the last 10 minutes to introduce you to Dr. Gala. She's fantastic, and give you some information where you can look her up, because we will absolutely have her back on the show, because we want to offer you resources. And what is a better resource than learning how to reclaim your superwoman status and working through stress? So please help me welcome Dr. Gala to the show. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Stephanie, I'm so sorry for the
Oh, that's
misunderstanding. I really
okay.
thought I had it straight whenever you emailed me a couple of days ago. And so I
No problem.
apologize for that.
That's okay. And when I looked at it too, I was like, oh, good, she caught the Central Standard Time, but it's been very hectic here too, so I probably just didn't catch it. And we'll absolutely have you back on the show, because I think you're such a fantastic person. I love the work you're doing. So kind of sell yourself. Tell everybody about how you help us work through that stress, and where they can find you, so they can kind of get to know you before you come back to the show.
That's fantastic, Stephanie. So my latest book is titled What's Your Kryptonite? Manage the toxic stressors threatening your superwoman status. And you can find more information about me and find a quick and easy link to buy the book on my website, drgala.com. And that is drgala.com. Super simple. So when I was kind of thinking through actually committing my thoughts to words for the book, I was kind of thinking through what I really wanted to say and what I wanted women to understand.
Absolutely.
And most of us think of ourselves as superwoman in our world. We have so many things going on. We're multitasking. We've got so many people that depend on us. I call them stakeholders. And
Yes.
and so we tend to take on too much, more than we can handle.
Yeah.
But it's not realistic to think that we're going to eliminate stress. So much of what we hear is stress relief, how to eliminate stress.
I love that. You're completely right. Stress is not just go away.
Right. It's not going anywhere. And honestly, as high achieving, overachieving superwomen, we wouldn't be happy with a stress-free life. Like we thrive on that, like go, lots of hands and lots of different clay pots, essentially.
Absolutely.
And so the important thing is to understand when stress is escalating to the point where we do have to dial it back. And so I work with patients and share in my book how to recognize the signs that stress is escalating and causing health effects. Stress is the root cause of most disease. And so we don't want to wait until we get that crazy diagnosis that then we're faced with alternatives that we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to say, oh, wow, things are getting a little out of hand here. I'm going to have to hit the pause button and do a few things to help kind of reverse course, and then be a little more mindful about where I'm overdoing it. And
I love that you talk about pinpointing it, because I don't think people realize. We look at, okay, there's stressors within our lives and we keep going, we keep pushing through because we have to persevere, but we don't usually take that time to stop and evaluate. So I think that's huge.
So in my first book called Sage Advice, I have a technique I call the SAGE technique. And it sort of involves this problem solving process that I use, where we really, the first step is to slow down.
Absolutely.
So we've got to slow down enough to be able to really take it in and evaluate what's creating the problem. Another thing that I like to really go more in depth on, and we don't have time for that today, but the really understanding of all the different types of stressors. So most of us think of stress as more of an emotional kind of
Right.
experience. And most stress that turns toxic is not emotional. That is
Wow.
one component, but
Yeah.
a lot of stressors are different sort of forms. And I evaluate 12 different categories, I call them, of toxins
Wow.
to identify which type or types of toxins are really causing the problem. Because you could think that it's stress and nothing you do works. And
Right.
that's because there's some underlying toxic stressor that
Wow.
nobody's helped you get to the bottom of. And
That's
without
huge.
addressing that, no amount of just what I call them garden variety stress
Yeah.
relief techniques are going to make much of a
Right.
difference for you.
No, that's huge. And I like how, and I look forward to when we have more time to talk about it, how you've broken these things down, because so much within the medical field, within looking at self-care, are these band-aids, one size fits all. And it's not that simple. Whole body treatment is not that simple.
Well, and I counsel patients, anyone that will listen really,
Right.
that we should not be using anything long term, not medication, not supplements, not
Right.
anything. We want to avoid suppressing symptoms if we possibly can, at least avoid suppressing the symptoms until we kind of milk them for all the information that they have
Right.
for us.
Right.
And then if we do need to use supplements, which I do use supplements to help kind of pull toxins out of the body and that
Right.
sort of thing, shore up deficiencies over a short period of time. If we do use those sorts of helpers,
Yes.
support techniques, we don't do that long term. I never tell somebody to take this and expect that they would still be taking it a year from now. Like,
Right. Right. Well,
and
because our
so
body changes.
right. And so,
Right.
and I don't want the body to get lazy and
Right.
not, all I'm trying to do is remind your body that it already knows how to do this
Yeah.
and it just needs to kind of have a jump start.
Right. I was going to say, like a jumpstart pack. That's exactly what I saw. Like we're trying to jumpstart, trying to, because I think within society, we are not taught to rely on our body. We're not taught anymore to connect to those naturally instilled messages.
I encourage patients to become their own PCP. So
Yeah.
in the medical world, a PCP is your primary care practitioner,
I love it.
but I encourage patients to become their own primary care person.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not skilled or qualified to become their own practitioner maybe, but
Right.
I want you to be your own primary care person. And that means that you're the one who has to notice the signs and symptoms and be able to communicate all that effectively, even when you do find
Yes.
yourself needing to turn to more expert guidance.
I love that. I'm so sorry that there was the miscommunication, but I do want to connect with you. I'll shoot you an email because there's so much here, folks. There's so much information about working through that stress, and stress is probably one of the most prevalent things within many of our lives.
Just about everybody, especially everybody in this world,
Yes.
high achieving, overachieving
Right.
superwomen, that is 100% an issue that you've got to deal with.
Yes. So everybody, I hope you will go to, I had it saved here. I want to pop your website back on there again. See if I can find it. No, and that was drgala.com, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay. So please pop on, check out the information she has, check out her books, and we will make sure to announce when you are coming back on, because I don't want people to miss this, because I know just from my own life and the changes that I made to work through and live my best life and try to alleviate stress where I can is so important.
Thanks again for having me, and
My
look
pleasure.
forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Have a good day. And everybody, I hope you will tune in next Thursday. We'll see you then.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.